and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communication and Marketing Department. And today we're going back to the Hampton History Museum, or at least the Hampton History Museum is coming to you. We have two guests today, Luci Talbot Cochran. Welcome, Luci.
Thank you.
And Mike Cobb. So you guys are here to tell us about a new exhibit, right?
We have a wonderful exhibit that actually is coming from our own collection. We're opening our vault, and actually that's in the title, and we're actually showing new artifacts that most people have never seen before. Most of them have never been displayed before. And we have this wonderful collection that actually the community has built, but really Mike has put together, our curator, over many, many years. And I really want him to talk about these treasures that we're showing for the first time.
Well, you know, first of all, I'm just going to jump in and say, how can you guys have all this stuff that we've never seen?
Robin, you know, most museums, 95% of what they own, be it Smithsonian or be it a small museum in a town anywhere in America, most of those things are tucked away and you never see them. And you always hear these stories of a curator will find a document that Mark Twain signed or something of that sort, a real mystery that just comes to light and a surprise to even those of us who wander around the dark vaults of the museum. And I've been doing that wandering, as Luci has said, for a long time. And there's a lot of things that I see every day that the public has not seen. Plus, every day, and the thing that makes this exciting, this job exciting, are things that are constantly coming in. You never know what it might be. It could be gosh knows what, or sometimes a magnificent artifact or photograph comes by that tells a story of Hampton.
Now, Mike, how do you get these things? Is this the Hunt for Hampton History, or is this Grandma died and we found this in the attic?
It's all of those. The Hunt brings things in, yes, this innovative program. But by and large, people decide that they have artifacts, and sometimes it takes years for them, family heirlooms. An example, Robert Hudgens gave us a pistol his grandfather carried during the Civil War, and he helped burn Hampton. It took him 5 years to get to the point of donating this. And when he finally handed it over, he took it out and he cleaned it very carefully and he handed it to me and he said, I want you to have that. And what he meant is I want you to have it for the city, for the museum and the people of Hampton. So what our museum is and what our collections are things that were precious to people. Precious to those who owned them long ago and precious to those who have given them to us. And so that's our mission, is to take care of these precious heirlooms. And what the public is going to see at this new exhibit, Opening Hampton's Vault, is just that. Things that have been here for a long time, 30, 40 years, and many of them, maybe half of these artifacts, have just come in just in the last couple of months.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. You get that many artifacts per year or per?
Be surprised.
Really?
Sometimes it's, you know, there is a lull, but then suddenly we just got three large collections, and one of which is the Robert Stocker collection. Stocker was an admiral in the United States Navy at the turn of the century. He lived in Hampton. We're getting his uniforms, his trunk with the word Hampton on it, and other things that he owned. And he's known primarily because of the Titanic disaster, the great shipwreck. And he was on the inquiry board that investigated the sinking of the Titanic. And he was from Hampton, and we have his uniform. And you'll be able to see it.
Wow.
And there are a few reasons we really feel this is a special exhibition. If you think about it, with all of these things tucked away, we're honoring those people that have given a part of their family's story, their heritage. We're showcasing that. And you asked earlier, why don't we show all this? If you think about it, even the Smithsonian with all those buildings, they can't show everything. And we have this beautiful little intimate museum. We just don't have the display area, but we are pulling things out, and both new and things that we've had for a while, that really celebrate the day-to-day life of Hampton and those people that were willing to share their family story with us. That's one of the key reasons we feel we have to honor that. The other thing we want to do is make sure that we do tell Hampton's story kind of on that intimate level. Mike has done an amazing job at really pulling sometimes even kind of common everyday things, There's a WPA shovel. About building, those are those stories that all of us have in our families that we don't tell enough to really celebrate what happens every day. And the other thing I like to think about is that hopefully it'll inspire people now, people that are making history today, to tell their stories to us, and also tell their family stories. So we see this as kind of a continuity issue of making sure we don't lose any history. And this is a wonderful way to celebrate that.
Well, I think too, it gets at, like you said, the day-to-day history and the family history, which is really what life was like in Hampton at these different times. And while it's important, and we all learn in history when the wars were and what the defining moments were, there's all those other moments in between about how people lived. And sometimes, the types of people whose stories weren't told, the people who didn't have money and power and wealth and weren't white males, that you don't know as much about them. And so it's wonderful when you're able to do that.
It certainly is. It certainly is. And when you come to this exhibit, when you come to our museum, you'll be able to go upstairs to our changing gallery and walk through this eclectic collection. It's just really things drawn from different areas, as you say, from the common folk, from well-known folk, and everything in between. You'll be able to see a dress, a lady's dress from the 1800s, the early 1800s.
Wow.
You'll be able to see a nurse's cape that a young woman wore in nursing school here in Hampton. Really quite beautiful object. You'll be able to see a field desk that a Union general carried throughout the Civil War. It has his name on it. It is an eclectic collection of wonders at the Hampton History Museum.
How do you make those choices of what gets on permanent display and what stays in the vault? And I mean, that's got to be difficult.
Well, it's like anything else. You have a script. If you're making a movie or whatever, you have a script, which is a guideline. And what you do is you write your script, and then you simply support your script with artifacts and images. And what we do best, a book can have the written word, a book can have pictures. But what a museum does, like the Hampton History Museum, what we do best is we have artifacts, three-dimensional objects that people once owned, and we can display them. So you can come and look at them and get an idea of what the past was like in this place we now call Hampton.
That's interesting. And pulling things out for the Changing Gallery too makes that experience a little different every time you go, because the rest of it is not totally constant, but if you've seen that, there's still more to see.
Well, and that is one thing we choose to do, is really in that Changing Gallery, tell individual stories, tell stories that you can't tell in the broader sense. When we downstairs in our main galleries, we try to tell the history of Hampton, which is really, as you and I have talked about, is the history of America.
Oh, 400 plus years now. And in how many rooms do you have?
Oh, we have about 9 galleries,
okay.
And from a prehistoric period into the 20th century. And the museum is certainly a looking glass to the past. But it's also a looking glass to the future. And so when people come to our museum, we want them to hear the history of Hampton, but we also want them to think about what the history means. And we often learn from our visitors by they ask us questions, they tell us things that we don't know. So the museum is a forum that's very much alive, that unites questions about our past and about our future. So it's a very important place in this town of Hampton.
Great. Well, what are your museum hours?
We are open 10 to 5, and that is Tuesday through Saturday. Mm-hmm. And then on Sunday, we're open as well. And I said Tuesday through Saturday, excuse me, it's Monday through Saturday. And then on Sunday, we're open 1 to 5. So every day of the week, you can come see these great exhibitions. And then we also have docents that are often available that can give you a personal tour and really dive deeper into the history. So we really have this resource available every day of the week. A few national holidays, we take the day off.
Right.
And then we have this wonderful visitor center in the lobby, and we have a great staff that works with the Conventions and Tourism Bureau that really can give you guided insight into where else to go if you're visiting the city, or they can just help you guide you through what to do that day if you're especially if you're showcasing something to family visiting from out of town. It's a great place to come. You have so much to do in our little museum. It's this wonderful museum that when you walk in, it looks like a small building, but it just keeps on going.
Well, it also has that, it's sort of an encompassing feel, like you've recreated places and moments, you know, the one after the fire, and you feel like you're in a different place.
We call it an immersion experience.
Okay.
And
see, there's a fancy name for it. I'm going to bumble around and make up words, and you know what it's called.
Well, you walk through the ship's hold, and you get an idea of what's to be like below a ship, of creaking and the water moving, and the sailors walking the decks and such. And then, very strikingly, you walk through the ruins of Hampton, and we have the burned brick walls and the tottering chimneys and photographs of what Hampton looked like after it was burned during the Civil War by the people who lived in Hampton, by the Hamptonians themselves. So you have that experience, and so that kind of feel is what people tend to remember at the Hampton History Museum. And you know, this changing exhibit opens on August 10th and runs through November, opening Hampton's vault. So you get to walk through our main galleries, the ruins of Hampton, the ship's hold, the Indian Lodge and such, then go upstairs and see artifacts that have just come to light.
That sounds great.
All in one day.
All in one day. And we have a wonderful reception on Friday night, August 10th. And that's really a preview for our members. So we encourage everyone to join the museum.
Okay, Lucy, make your pitch for membership.
Well, of course, I think everyone knows that cultural institutions like this, they need memberships. They need people who will agree to kind of commit on a yearly basis to support the museum. It allows us to do all this great programming, the exhibitions Mike creates, family programs, the wonderful lectures we have, actually some new things that we're going to be doing moving forward. All of that is made possible by memberships. So we're hoping we can encourage a lot more people to join us in celebrating what makes us so special here in Hampton. And that's this great story we have, kind of our story, which is also, as we've talked about, America's story. So we want everyone to join, and then you can come to this wonderful little celebration we have on August 10th.
And that's a nice thing too, where the members get something special and they get to meet each other, because obviously there are people who have something in common. They have an interest in Hampton or an interest in history or just in preserving and telling those kinds of stories.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we'll look for it, and glad you came back. Thank you so much for sharing. Good to see you too.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Lucy, and thank you, Mike. And I hope to see you at the Opening the Vault special exhibit and the regular exhibit at the Hampton History Museum. Thank you.